We are back. Hello. Welcome to Aetheral Space 17.48 Falling Stone. We are back.
We are back, we are back, we are back. We are back. Now what?
Um, now we proceed.
Do I eat this? Speaking of proceeding, I see you're making some Weird Route jokes. What do you think an Aetheral Space Weird Route would look like? Would that just be Capricorn?
And maybe, yeah. It would be something like Capricorn, where you like make a choice that you shouldn't make.
Dragon doesn't shoot Mizaz in the little jingle plays.
Dragon, you actually changed.
Nyan, my childhood friend.
It's Noel. You like corrupt Nyan somehow.
yeah, he was fine before Dragon got involved. There's nothing wrong with him. Alright, let's do this. Day 4. Bruno Del Ced looked down at the dark world. Wait, what? So this is Nermut, he said softly, with a voice like tinkling crystals. What is a tinkling crystal?
Like crystals tinkling together.
Do you mean, I won't correct you.
No, not twinkling. I know it's not twinkling, because that's a light phenomenon. Tinkling. It's tinkling.
Yeah, but tinkling's also... maybe it's not in England, but that's like a verb for peeing.
You've got a filthy fucking mind.
Sure. From the information they'd been given before arriving here, Bruno hadn't expected there to be much to see. A cold, dead world and a sealed city shining on the hill. That wasn't what was spread out before him now, spread out beneath the Thinker's Comet as it hung in the sky. Now the city called Zepan was encased in a shining crimson force field, surrounded on all sides, including above, by a perimeter of Final Church war machines. The fleet was all around, too, representatives from all three branches making sure every avenue of attack or defense was covered. To be frank, it looked like a hell of a siege. Serena planted her nose against the massive monitor, as if that would help her get a better look. "They beat us to it?" she said, aghast. "Don't worry," the child called Luna replied from the back of the room. "This is accounted for." Upon arrival, tomfoolery had gathered everyone who'd come along for this mission onto the Thinker's Comet's bridge. Morgan Noct sat on a step, sharpening his blade. Anatrice Del Ced crossed her arms as she looked up at the view screen. The older Del Ced children, volunteers for this mission, were loitering around the edge of the room, too. Bruno didn't know what they expected to accomplish by coming here, but they hadn't listened to any of his warnings. Tomfoolery clasped his hands behind his back as he walked across the room, his own gaze fixed on the monitor as well. "No wonder the Final Church has been keeping so quiet," he muttered. "They must have been preparing this operation for some time." Oh wait, that's not his voice. "No wonder the Final Church has been keeping so quiet," he muttered severely. "They must have been preparing this operation for some time." Morgan raised his blade, inspecting it, before finally returning it to its sheath as he looked up at Foolery. "What then?" he asked. "Are we going to have to take on the church, too?" Foolery took a long breath. "I'd prefer not to," he said candidly. "Matters are already complicated enough. At least it looks like we don't have to fear attacks from Zepan yet." Just then there was a beeping from the consoles, and one of the technicians looked up from her station. "Sir?" she called out to Tomfoolery. "What?" Nebula 3 asked. "Jabrahar's a witness," Luna whispered. It's a Jabraharza witness, sir," the technician replied. "A message has just come in. Apparently she's in charge of the church's operation here, and she wants to speak to you right away." Foolery clenched his hand into a fist behind his back. "How fortuitous," he said calmly. "I was just thinking the exact same thing." Nararihion truly despaired for the future of the Final Church. Surely stealing from others was a sin, wasn't it? And yet their priests seemed to do it so easily. It flew through the sky as a streak of electric blue light, zooming in close pursuit of its adversary, the beast from the Final Church, the one that had stopped it from mutilating Worm. Their battle in the bunker hadn't lasted long. As soon as the beast had managed to get permutation away from Nararihion's guardian entity, it had taken flight and tried to get away. Saving your comrade. Yeah, right. The beast's intentions were obvious to anyone looking. Using Brother Worm as an excuse, it had come to snatch away permutation while it was between hands. Its next move would be to shake off Nararihion's pursuit and return to whatever den it had crawled out of. Not that Nararihion would allow that. Taurus Mortar! As their mid-air chase slipped past the crumbling monolith of a skyscraper, Nararion activated the captain's ability. 6 projectiles were generated, scraped together from the brickwork of the building, locked onto the beast, and fired. The sequence was performed with such efficiency that it was as if Nararion had done it thousands of times before. But the beast's response was just as smooth. It flapped its massive black wings and, in that same moment, released a cloud of jet-black feathers into the air behind it. The feathers were crawling with bright pink aether. They acted as substitute targets for Taurus Mortar, sending the 6 projectiles off course. With another flap of its wings, the beast sent out another volley of feathers. These ones sharpened, aimed like darts to expertly pierce and destroy each and every mortar. How did he know how Taurus Mortar worked?
Well, he's got good battle IQ.
Nararion ground its teeth. Enough of this. Scorpio contract, Cancer lockbox, guardian entity, Ozake no Mushi. A looted piece of jewelry was a small price to pay for guaranteed victory. Time ground to a halt, suitably paid off. The building besides them, which had started to collapse, had become a stationary diorama of floating destruction. Nararion smirked as it came to a gentle halt, looking down at the frozen beast. 1 second has passed. Ozake no Mushi lunged out from beneath Nararion's kimono, but its tendrils didn't go for the beast directly. Instead, they lashed out at the surrounding debris, aiming for the shadows they were casting in that sliced open moment. Through careful planning, Nararion had acquired quite the toy box of techniques. It would be a waste not to use them properly. 2 seconds had passed. The tendrils slipped into the shadows, not just patches of darkness now, but portals, and emerged from multiple new angles. Above the beast, below the beast, beside the beast. It was strange to think of them as seconds, given that time had stopped, but within a second, the beast had been completely surrounded by a living crimson web.
Now it's looking
3
finger twitches and like, no.
passed. According to the asinine conditions Don Hadrian had applied to his ability, idiocy to be expected of the worthless Dragon Hadrian, Nararion couldn't actually launch any attacks while Scorpio Contract was active. That didn't mean it couldn't prepare any attacks, though. Still smirking, Nararion lifted a lazy finger. 4 seconds have passed. Taurus Mortar. The debris was just as frozen as everything else, so Nararion couldn't gather mass for its projectile, but the basic rule of Taurus Mortar still applied. The longer it was active, the faster and stronger it became. Once time resumed, the fledgling mortar would already be fast enough that the beast couldn't dodge it, even ignoring the web that was about to restrain it. 5 seconds have passed. "Begone," said Nararion. Time marched once more. Debris crashed down, tendrils snapped forth, Taurus Mortar fired forth as a line of crackling blue light. The beast was struck from every possible angle. Friday the 13th, a new beginning. And the beast fell. Nararion watched with satisfaction as its enemy crashed down to the ground, only descending itself once it was sure there would be no more movement. The visual evidence was equally conclusive and satisfying. The beast was splayed out in a broken pile of limbs, its face pressed against the ground, its back twisted at a gruesome angle. Good. It befits a worm to keep eating dirt as it dies. Landing on the ground before the carcass, Nararion lifted its finger once more. After all, it would be remiss not to make absolutely sure. Confirming your kills was basic practice on the battlefield. Leo Rain. The beast's carcass twitched as shot after shot slammed into it, but Nararion's smirk quickly faded from its face. Something was wrong. Where was the blood? Holes were opening up all over the beast's body, but there wasn't so much as a drop of blood. No. Nararion rushed forward, seizing hold of the dead beast, and the body collapsed in its hands, falling apart into clumps of black fur. A decoy. It must have switched places with the real beast at the very last moment. That bastard had been aware of Nararion's master stroke for barely a second, and even so it had countered it. The humiliation alone would have been enough to stoke Nararion's fury, but there was more than that. Where was it? It wasn't here. The sword was gone, nowhere to be found in the pile of fur. The beast had escaped, and it had taken permutation with it. Leo Rain! Nararion had no real hope of catching the beast with random projectiles that it knew, but its fury was still beyond its conscious control. Jets of bright blue slammed into the landscape all around, pulverizing what little remained of the architecture, kicking up great clouds of dust from the ground. All the while, in the center of the tempest, Nararion screamed in utter fury. It couldn't just stand here. It had to do something. It had to track that fucker down. It had to. Der Freischütz! The shot passed right by Nararion's face. The rage faded from its voice instantly, trailing off into a near-death croak. Its eyes widened to their utmost. Even its posture became like that of a panicked statue, hands half raised, caught between one footstep and the next. It seems you've It seems you understand your situation, whelp. Slowly, Nararihyun's pupils drifted over to gaze at its assailant. A pointless gesture. There was only one man on Nermud it could have been anyway. The giant named Maxim stepped out from behind a pile of rubble, a rifle arm trained right between Nararihyun's eyes. Don't you dare move! Nararihyun did not dare. Oh, did he become Nararihyun's biggest fear, Maxim? It knew that to disobey that order, in even the slightest way, would have been to invite its immediate destruction. That bullet was the enemy of all Aether. Even if Nararihyun hadn't been a variant given life through permutation, its nature as a guardian entity would have been enough to make Der Freischütz an insurmountable force. Even as rage burnt red-hot in its heart, it remained frozen. The cool instincts of a soldier lingered in its heart. So long as it remained alive, it could still win. So long as it could still win, the war was far from over. Girl, Misi giggled, spinning the false black brush in his hands. Like, yes! I mean, you were literally so good at this. Swing! Blade met blade, and life met life. Black brush collided with its twin again and again and again, Misi and Oe clashing with equal strength and speed and skill. It truly was as if, the moment Misi grasped his black brush, the skill of the original wielder had been downloaded into his brain. In fact, that was exactly what had happened. An ability to change your weapon was kind of useless if you didn't know how to wield what you got. Still laughing in glee, Misi swept a heavy paint stroke through the air, and a draconic serpent of woven grass and gnarled bone sprung into life, flowing down the alley towards Oe like a rampaging river. Not for the first time in their battle, she met life with life. A paint stroke of her own created a charging fiery tiger, its agitated roar ripping through the night. It charged forward, meeting the incoming dragon head-on. Hang on, my headset turned off.
No problem.
I'm back. As the paint beasts collided, they exploded, sending clouds of smog and blood pouring through the alleyway like they were in a wave of...
Wave pool, sorry.
Oh, in a wave of pool. In a wave pool. Misi laughed with glee, even as Song Shu darted in from the red mist and unleashed a flurry of barely visible punches. He moved his weapon and body in perfect response to her fists. Dodge, block, so long as Misi kept up that specific rhythm, Song Shu's ability couldn't increase the strength of her blows. It was an energetic, almost mocking dance. As he swung Blackbrush again, sending Song Shu back with a swarm of crumpled seagulls, Misi glanced at the phantom weapon floating above his enemy's head. This was for his eyes only. Halloween letting him know what weapons those around him feared most, allowing him to select and manifest it. He thought about it for a second. Should he switch from Blackbrush to the formidable fists he could see before him? Nah. Song Shu's punches were nothing to scoff at, sure, but Misi would be stupid to let go of a high-rank Aether armament like this. Come on, Misi winked, spinning the Blackbrush in his hands. Let's keep going until the sun goes down, okay? Hoot hoot. There wasn't a sun here on their moon, but whatever.
We can set up.
Misi's grin widened as he saw the girls preparing for their next assault. Song Shu bouncing off of the walls of the alley, getting ready to launch into his blind spot. Oe swirling her axe into the ground before her, no doubt cooking up something truly abominable. His teeth were chattering. Oh, this was what he lived for! His wrist buzzed. The smile dropped. Seriously? He thought about just ignoring it for a second, but then the implant in his wrist buzzed again, more insistently this time. It was the pre-agreed signal, letting him know that the mission objectives had been accomplished. He was to return to Hotel Desaad and await further instructions. And things had just been getting good. As Misi took a step back, preparing to begin his retreat, he glanced over at the shivering mess hiding next to the dumpster. The Aetherless kid with the 2 swords. Oh right, he'd been saving this girl, hadn't he? That was the whole reason he'd shown up here. Should he take her with him? He didn't have long to think about it. Song Shu was already kicking off the wall and Oe was already pulling her black brush free. The decision was made in 0.3 seconds. Oh, what the hell? Heart? Misi's hand reached out. Red light met blue and tore the world apart. It was just as the dragon had said. If Ruth just let that massive automatic do as it pleased, then sooner or later it would result in the deaths of her friends. Where the dragon had been wrong, though, was in the second thing he'd said. He told her that if she wanted to stop the automatic, she'd need to get through him first. Not true. Ruth Blaine was great at multitasking. Killing arts! Devil fist! She braced herself as a red-hot fist, set alight by sheer friction, slammed into her raised arm, sending her flying. In that moment, she had a perfect view of the battlefield she was facing the dragon on. A battlefield with 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. They were fighting atop the automatic itself. Excuse me. Streaks of red and blue light swerved around the giant, the bodies of the combatants reduced to mere impressions. When the Titan brought its fist down, Ruth parried it with a sweep of contratemps. When the Titan poured force from its mouth, the dragon countered with breath of his own. A clash, a clash, a clash, a clash! Each strike was the ticking of the second hand. As the cityscape crumbled and burned around them, these two fighters entered the realm of the Absolute. The dragon landed on one shoulder, Ruth landed on the other. One face grinned with primal glee, the other was bared in the grimace of one looking into an old mirror. "Come on, Blaine!" the dragon screamed, his voice high-pitched and breaking. "Looks like everyone's heading home!" His absolution regenerated once more, covering his humanity completely. "Let's end things with a bang!" he cried. Ruth Blaine glared, and her visor snapped down to cover her face. "I've got 3 minutes for you," she replied. They both moved. Day 4, minute 983. Red collided blue, and their limbs became weapons. Ruth crashed her leg into the dragon's side, but he had already put an arm into position to block it. Cackling, he unleashed a beam of flame from his mouth, Ruth twisting in midair and kicking off of the soles of his feet to launch herself downwards. The beam abated into individual fireballs, each sense... What? Each sense and hot? Oh, probably dense.
Yes, dense.
Each dense and hot enough to melt through steel, each surging down after Ruth. Spinning in the air to face the dragon again, Ruth manifested contratemps in her hands, and with 3 thrusts, she unleashed 3 projectiles of force no bigger than raindrops. They would be enough. Day 4, minute 984. The fireballs erupted into a roaring infernal ceiling, as their structure was compromised. For a few precious seconds, Ruth was free of the dragon's notice. She took her chance. She recorded one of her gauntlets into her aether and then manifested it again beneath her feet, using it as a platform to kick off. Sparks sprayed from beneath her feet as she skated along the length of the automatic's massive arms, its warped dark visage tracking her from far above. At the same time, the dragon caught her scent again. Still laughing, he tore free the automatic's extended thumb, slinging it over his shoulder as a makeshift club. Day 4, minute 985. Ruth skidded to a halt, suddenly whirling around and firing a concentrated blast of force from Contratemp's tip. A blast as thin as a needle and perfectly sharp, more than capable of piercing through the dragon's body. If it hit. The variant lunged downwards, digging into the automatic's chassis with his wood-clawed hands and disappearing into its mechanisms like a mole. She leapt up just in time as her enemy burst out of the metal beneath her. Day 4, minute 985, second 1. "Killing arts, Satan Fist!" A fist rushed forth, bearing the wrath of a sun. "Emperor Set!" A fist rushed forth, an almighty set of armor concentrated into it. And with lights colliding, the world detonated. Wow. Very Aether of you.
Yeah. I want to say sorry, because a lot of this is like in between fighting, but it's going somewhere. Please, we're good.
Alright, let's get some Aether questions, shall we? Wow, we have barely any Aether questions. What the hell?
We've got a couple.
I'll just do a couple then, so we have some for tomorrow. Stift asks, could Nyan reincarnate into anyone he has bestowed pieces upon?
Not fully. He couldn't like turn them into a clone of him. The cloning is its own individual thing. So what he could do is like he could like implant certain personality traits or like things into you, but he couldn't like Agent Smith you.
Okay. Stift also asks, is there an official knight title in the Supremacy/Final Church/UAP or all of the AS universe?
There's various knighthoods in the Final Church, and those sort of traditions are carried on, and you'll get people like style themselves as knights in the other places as well. I would say the closest thing modern-wise is probably the Supremacy's special officers, to be honest.
Yeah. How does that work under Dragon? Did he change anything with the commission?
No. By the time in the 2 years after Padman's death, the fucking like 3 wise men got like a pretty good stranglehold on the special officers commission. So it's their baby now. Hence why they put Zod in charge, because he's a company. He'll do as they say.
Yeah, the fucking yapper guy.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have one question left, but I'm gonna save it for next time in case we don't get any more. So hey, thank you all for watching, and maybe we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.